You're watching a match. Two competitors. One is bigger, faster, more experienced. The other has almost no chance. And yet, something in you pulls toward the one who's losing. You want them to win. You need them to win. Even if you've never met them. Even if you don't care about the sport. That feeling isn't random. It isn't just kindness. And it's not even about fairness. It's a survival signal. One that's been running inside you for hundreds of thousands of years. And by the end of this, you'll never watch a competition the same way again. Here's the part nobody tells you, rooting for the underdog isn't about who deserves to win. It's about who you used to be. Let's go back. Way back. Not to stadiums or screens, but to the African savanna, roughly 200,000 years ago. Your ancestors lived in small bands of about 25 to 50 people. Resources were scarce. Predators were real. And power, who had it, who didn't, how fast it shifted, was a matter of life and death. In that world, you needed to track dominance hierarchies constantly. Who was strong? Who was weak? Who was rising? Who was falling? Not because it was interesting, because it told you where you stood. And where you stood determined whether you ate, whether you were protected, whether you survived. Now here's the twist. The individuals who made it, the ones whose genes you carry right now, weren't always the strongest. They were the ones who knew how to read a power shift before it happened. And they learned to do that by paying obsessive attention to the underdog. Because in a small band, the underdog was a signal. A weak member who suddenly started winning meant something was changing. Resources were shifting. Alliances were forming. The old alpha was losing grip. And if you caught that signal early, you could reposition yourself. You could survive the transition. Your brain didn't just notice underdogs. It learned to feel something about them. It learned to care. Psychologists call this the underdog effect. In 2010, researchers Joseph Vandello, Nadav Goldschmied, and David Richards published a study showing that across multiple cultures, people consistently root for the perceived weaker party, in sports, in competitions, even in abstract scenarios with no emotional stakes at all. Not sometimes. Consistently. The effect held even when participants were randomly told one side was behind. Just the label of underdog was enough to trigger support. Underdog effect. That's the name. Here's what it means: a predictable shift in human sympathy and support toward whoever appears to be losing or disadvantaged. And here's why it matters to you: it means your emotional responses to competition are not freely chosen. They're running on ancient code. But it goes deeper than sympathy. Think about the last time you watched someone come from behind. Heart rate up. Leaning forward. Maybe you made a sound without meaning to. That physical response, that involuntary spike, isn't enthusiasm. It's surveillance. Your nervous system treating that comeback like information it needs to process urgently. Because in ancestral terms, a reversal of power was one of the most important events that could happen in your social world. It meant everything was about to change. And your body still responds to it that way. Here's where it gets interesting. The underdog effect doesn't just apply to strangers on a screen. It applies to you. When you feel outmatched, at work, in a relationship, in a room full of people who seem more confident than you, something shifts. You start performing for an imaginary audience. You start narrating your own struggle. And somewhere underneath that, there's a pull toward proving something. Not to them. To yourself. Because some part of your brain has framed you as the underdog. And it knows what underdogs who win are worth paying attention to. That's why underdog stories don't just entertain us. They instruct us. Every culture on Earth has them: the youngest sibling who defeats the giant, the small army that routs the empire, the unknown who beats the favorite. These aren't just narratives. They're training data. Maps for how power actually moves. And your brain collects them obsessively. Researchers at the University of South Carolina found something fascinating in 2013. People who identified as underdogs in their own lives showed significantly higher persistence after failure than those who saw themselves as favorites. The underdog frame, even when self-imposed, changed behavior. It made people try harder, longer, and with more creativity. Survival. That's the twist here. Rooting for underdogs isn't soft. It isn't sentimental. It's a cognitive strategy your ancestors used to track power, predict change, and position themselves for survival. And it got wired so deep that now it fires every time you watch a match, a race, a competition, even a reality show elimination. You're not cheering. You're scanning. Have you ever noticed that you feel strangely uncomfortable when the favorite wins too easily? Like something was stolen from you? That discomfort has a name. Psychologists call it outcome bias disruption, the sense that a foregone conclusion wastes information. Your brain wanted to watch a power shift. It wanted signal. And when the expected winner wins, there is no signal. Just confirmation of what already was. The next time you feel yourself pulling for the underdog, pause for a second. Notice where that pull lives in your body. Is it in your chest? Your gut? Notice how it doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like recognition. Like something in you already knew who to watch. That's your ancestors. Still scanning. Still tracking. Still trying to figure out who's about to change the world. And here's the final thing. The reason underdog stories never get old, no matter how many times you've seen one, the scrappy team, the unlikely hero, the one nobody believed in, is because they're not about the character on screen. They're about you. The part of you that's been overlooked. The part that's still trying. The part that knows, somewhere underneath everything, that power isn't fixed. That's why you root for the underdog. You always have.